All right, how we doing, everyone? This is John L. with EVgines.com. We are here at Leadfoot Studios, and I'm here with Ed Montfort. And Ed is going to tell us some awesome things that he does with trucks. He specializes in converting these to electric, and he's going to tell us a little bit on how that happens.
Thank you for joining us at EVgines.com.
Ed, thank you so much for coming out and talking with us today on our podcast. If you could, you want to just kind of give us a brief overview of the vehicles, how you did it, and why you did it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So really, I've been doing this, I've been building cars and supercars since 2005. Built Mustangs, high-end Mustangs.
All right.
And actually before that, because I'm going to put this together, I was in electrical engineering.
Oh,
so
wow.
I would design and actually do the programming for a lot of manufacturers, even Fortune 500 companies. Could be like Swisher and Anheuser or paper plants. Travel all over the Southeast. So that was my job, was to help the engineers design their electronics and the heating and cooling for industrial plants. So you got your electrical, and then you've got your car that I've been working on in car manufacturing on the cars that I built. So now you have electric cars, which is kind of like where we started. So it was really in 2008 when I was out in California with the car manufacturer I was working with. We decided to do an all-electric Mustang and an all-electric Cobra.
Oh my gosh.
So we were here in a big booth, and then Tesla was over here in a smaller booth. So, but that's pre what Tesla is now. So we were getting a lot of attention. I had my Mustang out there, was getting all the footage, and they were a little bit upset, but that was the car. So that kind of, as you know, that took off. So I decided to take off in electric trucks and buses, larger vehicles. So it's a completely different animal, though. You know, the electric cars, they are more of direct drive, where an electric truck or bus, it's electric drive, direct, which is what they're using now. But the thing about it, it's more of a slow speed, doesn't go up the hills, has stalls, it roll back, a lot of problems with that. And that's why I'm here today. I want to explain to you what my company has developed and how we're so different.
Yeah, I know one key thing that's really cool and really different is that you're using not a standard, but an automatic transmission, one of the best ones that were ever made, which is an Allison.
Yeah.
And you're incorporating that with the electric engine. So how does that happen? Like, what's the benefits of that?
Yeah, so I didn't get a lot of funding. So I had to figure out how to do this in the beginning, how it was going to be easy to do. And when I went to a lot of the shows, we were always going to these truck shows, Fleet 100 Best Fleets or something like that. The mechanics would come up and the managers would come up and we're like, we're not buying these electric trucks. We don't know how to work on them. I'm like, let me see if I can fix that. So that's where I came up with the idea. I said, well, let's just keep all the OEM parts in the truck. So what I did is I had an electric motor and I had the battery. So what do I do from there? So when I get the truck, what I do is I take only the engine block out. And of course the exhaust and the gas tank. So, but everything else stays. I mean, the wires, the pedals inside, it's 100% OEM on the inside of the cab. So when you get in, people literally don't know that they're in an electric truck. So when you take that block out, you leave all the wires, and you take everything, you take the exhaust out and the gas tank. So what I do is I take an electric motor and I attach it to the torque converter. So now, but what I had to do was figure out what we call a smart plate. So what wouldn't work properly was communicating with the ECU on the trucks.
Yeah.
And of course, Ford is the hardest company to work with because it's not Allison, things like that. But you know what? I got it figured out on that Ford F-150.
Yeah.
And it drives like a dream. Like, you know, you guys have ridden it. A couple of you guys have been ridden in that vehicle.
Yeah.
So on that electric F-150, all I did is I put the batteries in the back, but I still keep the bed space because I lift the rail, so I have all that bed space still there. And when you climb in the truck, they're like, it looks like it's gas. The tach works, speedometer works. Now the gas gauge doesn't work, but I can't help you there because we're not gas anymore.
Well, that's
So-
got to be a benefit too, is having that weight distribution on the truck as well. Do you
Yes.
feel that difference when you're driving it?
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. We do add about 350 pounds to the truck. So we do have to beef up the rear suspension on the F-150. If it's an F-250, we don't have to do anything to it.
Yeah.
It can handle it. So, yeah.
So everybody knows the benefits of electric engines. They're, torque monsters. I'm sure that's why you went with the Allison built out. And you went to a mutual friend of ours too, from what I understand, CA Conversions built the Allison for
Yes.
you.
Yeah, we're
Great
partners
company.
with them. Yes.
Yeah, they're a great group of people. We've met them and talked to them plenty of times. And they're top notch. They're one of the best in the business, or the best in the business when it comes to building Allisons, because I know Casey will tell you that's all we do and that's all I specialize in. So they're great. And so that was an excellent choice to use them. So how did that relationship come about, or what was the, some of the things you had to work out when you put that torquey engine there? Did you try different transmissions first, or did you just go straight to Allison? Did you have some, some failures on some other ones? What was the process on that? What did that look like?
Yeah, so my very first builds were more like a Ford Ranger. I built that, and I kept all the accessories, and then I went to a Ford F-150 and had a manual drive. But then I jumped into, we had to build large electric buses, school buses. So these were 80 passenger, about 33,000 GVW. So it's like, man, what are we gonna do? These electric motors will not push this bus up hills. It won't do it. So what I did is I attached electric motors to the Allison transmission. This was an Allison 3000. That was on the school bus. So I attached it to it, and lo and behold, this bus is doing highway speeds. It's going up steep hills.
Wow.
But that was older technology with DC. Now we've really improved the technology. But I started off trying to get that Allison transmission to work, but that was on the older vehicles.
Yeah.
And how are you going to get it to work with the newer vehicles? Because it's all computerized now, right? So with the new company, what I've done is I've created a smart plate. So now the smart plate communicates with everything on the vehicle. That's why we get the speedometer and the tach, everything to work. So we just unplug and plug back up, and we've got some programming, some proprietary program that we do with CA that we've developed now, and some other parts that make it easy to assemble. Yeah.
So now, is this, are you looking at selling the complete package vehicle on all, or just the motor swaps? What's the plan, or what's the options that are out there?
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to make it available for new vehicles and used vehicles.
Okay.
So how do you do this? You can't do that with today's EV systems that are out there right now. So 100% of our competition, they'll put the inverter up here and the motor direct drive over here, DC converter over here. It's spread out through the whole vehicle, and it takes a semi-college degree just to work on those vehicles, right? So we were already warned they would not buy these vehicles if it was too complicated and hard to find the parts. So what we did is we just made it an engine assembly, but it was an electric motor assembly. So when you do that, you've got the electric motor, you've got the inverter, you've got the DC below, and then on the sides, we've got the PDUs and the VCUs and all the electronics all in one system.
That's crazy.
So to answer your question, let's say, Ford did come to us. Be like, okay, you don't have to change your assembly line. Instead of putting that ICE in there, hooked up to the transmission, which is the way it goes when it goes down the assembly line, you put the EVgine system, which is already hooked up to the transmission and torque converter, it drops in the same way. So you still connect to your hoses for the antifreeze. We still use that because everything is cooled, liquid cooled, which makes the smaller parts, makes it more compact.
Wow.
And let me tell you what, when I'm driving the EVgine all-electric F-150, I think my temperature is right around 85 degrees. So everything stays very cool on the system. So you have more torque, more power, more efficiency. It is a lot more efficient to drive an electric vehicle. When the numbers come out, these manufacturers, And these companies are going to see that it's going to be less expensive to drive electric trucks. And people are going to start to see that. And hopefully I'll be able to come back more to explain how that's going to happen.
Oh yeah, definitely. So just a quick kind of breakdown of the motor itself. What are we looking at as far as specs? You know, the actual horsepower, torque. I know that's the big thing on electric is they are very torquey.
Very torquey.
So will that truck get up and go and burn some tires, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It'll rip the transmission right out of the F-150. But you know what? Our electronics that we have in it and the programming that we've developed, it's just like a dyno on a car. You can tune it. Well, we can tune our system too. So the system that's in the F-150, we call it the class 1 through 4 because it will handle a 20,000 GVW load. But of course, on the F-150 transmission, it would just rip it right out. So that's why we're doing the Allison transmissions for the heavier loads. So whenever you're working with the transmissions, you have to detune them for the Ford. So what I do is I bring the torque down, I bring the horsepower down to match the F-150 specs. So now that motor that can handle, it's awesome. A 400 horsepower, 600 foot-pounds of torque. So if I were to mash my throttle all the way, it would literally probably just rip all the gears out of that system. So I detune it down, and now when I hit the throttle, it feels like a Cadillac going down the road. So all the gears, 1 through 6, work perfectly. Gearing down works perfectly. But you know what? We have developed a system with CA now for the Allison. Listen to this. It works with the PTO. We're going to be the very first company that works with the PTO for your bucket trucks, your lifts, all that, dump trucks. So we're building class 1 through 8. So with this system, the 1 through 8, I mean the class 8 is a completely different system. We'll talk about that another time. You guys are going to be shocked when you find out what we're doing and who we're building it for.
Yeah, that just opens up a whole
that's a whole nother podcast.
PTOs, that's awesome. I mean, it's and you know, some other basic specs on this, you know, regular driving, what's the average mileage that you're going to get out of the charge? So what does that typically run?
Yeah, so we can run anywhere from a 50 to an 85 to even up to 120 kilowatt hour battery pack. So what that's going to do is give you about a 200-mile distance.
Okay.
As you know, when you have a load on an electric vehicle, so I mean, I don't like talking about competition or things like that, but we have to compare apples to apples to really get an education.
Yeah.
Because how do the other people that say, okay, our mileage is here and our horsepower is here? They don't talk about each other, but you really have to talk about apples to apples these days. Okay, so let's say there is YouTube videos out there that show our competitor towing a vehicle, and they go from 300 miles down to 103 miles pulling a trailer. So on our system, when we were pulling about 20,000 pounds, we went with a battery pack a little bit bigger, and we went 72 miles, but we're almost double the weight.
Yeah.
So we are getting more distance than our competition because there are white sheets out there that show, and this is by two very, very large, they're billion-dollar companies, because we deal with tier 1 vendors. And they did some white sheets on working with the transmissions and working with an actual, like an Allison transmission, when it's tuned properly, we do get more distance. It is more efficient because it's like, how are you going to go up a hill with a direct drive?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the competitors just got sued because they go up a hill and then it rolls back with one of their trucks. And you definitely don't want that. You don't want to roll back. And that's direct drive. But we're using a transmission, and as you know, when you don't have rollback with the transmission, you don't have those problems, and you can kind of tap your pedal to stay steady. We do not have rollback, and we can go up any hill a diesel or ICE can go up.
Wow.
And we're going to have more torque.
Yeah.
So if you're using a transmission, you're going to go highway speeds with your electric truck, and you're going to be able to go up these steep hills, which they can't do right now. I haven't seen anything. There might be something out there, but I haven't seen anything that can really haul a full load going up a hill. And I certainly have not seen a Class 8 doing that.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll talk about later, because ours will go up a hill fully loaded.
Wow, that's awesome. I know that I had the fortunate experience of last year. I went to the, before this whole COVID craziness, actually it was right at a year ago, I went to the IAA auto show in Frankfurt, Germany.
Oh.
And that was the number one thing, was all electric.
Oh, really?
And if the manufacturer didn't have an electric vehicle to show, they didn't even show up to the event really. So it was like Mercedes and Volkswagen, they all had their newest big push for electric vehicles. And I didn't see one thing that compares to just what you're talking about. Everything was about cars, SUVs, nothing talked about towing or loads or anything like that.
They don't want to talk about that, trust me. That's what I've noticed too.
Yeah, so. And the thing is, you know, over here, it just makes more sense to make it simple to convert over.
Yes.
There's so much, I always think about, you know, obviously there's billions of dollars of research they're doing, but it's going to cost a lot of money in maintenance, or if something goes wrong with those vehicles. Something like this, it seems like, you know, it's very easy to replace their existing engine.
Very easy.
Whether it's, like you said, manufacturer, hopefully one day Ford gets that call and says, hey, you know, let's put them on the line. Or, you know, it's the guy who's got the newer vehicle or a couple of years old and says, hey, I want to do a swap on my truck and get better efficiency. Because unfortunately, it looks like, you know, Europe starts kind of these trends and we try to follow suit. And it is inevitable, it is coming down the line, but I don't think it'll be as extreme as what they're doing over there. But it definitely is something that we're going to have to look at and have to deal with. And this is a great way to approach it, you know, to still keep that functionality of a working truck, because that's what, I mean, you look everywhere, you know, most of our consumers are truck guys, you know, so to be able to have that truck and still convert over to electric, I think it's an awesome opportunity for you guys, what you're doing. I think you're ahead of the game. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's look at 100% of our competition. If you buy from our competition and something goes wrong with that electric truck or bus, you literally have to have it towed by a special vehicle. Then you have to take it to a special facility, and then those people have to be specially trained.
Yeah.
With ours, because it's spread out, it's hard for me to understand what's on those too. And I know it I actually do the work, the wiring, the programming. I do everything. So let's say you have our system. I'm telling you, you use your existing staff. It's that if you know how to take a torque converter apart or disassemble an ICE from a torque converter shunt, you already know how to work on our system.
Wow.
Because it's all there in one package. You disconnect your house battery for the 12 volt, and then you disconnect your hose and your pumps. That's it.
Wow.
It's that easy to work on. So listen to this. We don't have to develop an infrastructure, a special infrastructure. So the competition would have to have a special facility, spend millions, probably billions of dollars creating a whole brand new infrastructure all over the world to work on their trucks. We use the existing staff, the mechanics, and we use the existing parts and the places where they're worked on, the buildings. We use all their items. So I'm telling you, it's the easiest system to work on.
So the average guy out there that wants to make that swap, we were just talking about that. How would he make that happen?
Yeah, so we do want to make it for used and brand new vehicles, like what I was saying before. So let's say people want to convert their used vehicles and they want to put it in whatever they want. I mean, this is built for trucks, and it's a very powerful system. We're going to have kits available. It could be for fleets, or it could be just for your personal use that you could install. So you know, I have a site, DIY EV. So that's kind of how I started, because I wanted to make this for everybody, not only the manufacturers. So we will start selling this kit for the DIY EV people next year. Wow. So basically what we've done is we're partnering with a very large company that's going to handle the manufacturing. Now listen, you're going to get tier 1 type parts, and we know tier 1 is like the big 3. It's put together like that. So you're getting parts that look like it's coming straight from the factory. and you're going to be able to install it just watching YouTube videos. It's going to be that easy, I'm telling
Wow.
you. And if you need help from us, then we just modem in, and we can look at the system and help you tune it, program it, fix any kind of problem. We can see anything that's wrong over the internet. We don't have to be there, and we can help you. This is going to be something for the manufacturers and for everybody, and we'd love to be able to put this on EVgines.com. We'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, keep an eye out for that in the future on EVgines.com. We're definitely going to be have some talks about that. Now, I can see the calls already coming in to EVgines.com. I want to put this in my, I mean, we get all sorts of crazy, like resto mods and Frankenstein builds. So could it be swapped into an old school Camaro or something like that? What is there space enough? From, you know, electric engines are fairly smaller than typically gas engines, but then you got bigger batteries and everything like that.
Right.
So if someone really wanted to make it happen, you think that they can make that happen?
Yeah, we can get whatever you need. So basically, we do have a system. So we have a shop that has lathe and everything. So if you have a special transmission, even if you want to do a 6-speed, if you want 4 and 6 on the floor, whatever you want,
Wow.
we can connect a manual or automatic transmission.
That's crazy.
Or the kits, you know, that they use, the 2-speed kits for racing.
On that, have you driven one with a manual?
Yes, yeah, I built one. I built 2 of them.
What does that feel like? That's got to be the weirdest
Awesome,
thing. Yeah.
because I like the manual.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've got a Mustang, a 67 Mustang.
Yeah.
That's a manual, and you know, I like peeling out in first, second, and third. I really enjoy that. You know, getting sideways a little bit.
You said third, so I'm guessing a light
Third,
car,
you can get a little bit of chirp. I'm still not that good yet, but yeah, it's still fun, yeah.
That's crazy. That's amazing that that you can do that kind of swap with electric, because it seems so, even when you hear about the other brands out there, it seems so far-fetched about incorporating something like that into, you know, a hot rod or something, you know, a car that you love, old school build, or, you know, Frankenstein build. But I can hear the calls are already, you know, we already get all sorts of, you know, LS engines are infamous for swapping into, from Miatas to, you know, monster trucks. So it's, we get all sorts of crazy requests, and that we, you know, accommodate. So this is going to be like your electric motor LS option. You know, you're going to be able to swap this into pretty much any application. And I'm sure people are creative what they do in their garages, so I'm sure they'll figure out a way to use it in all sorts of applications. So awesome. Ed, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate everything that you're doing for the truck market, first and foremost, but you know, for all markets, like we talked about, this is going to be an awesome possible resto mod option for the electric engine. And keep an eye out for more information. See us on EVgines.com. Look out for EVgine and what they're doing. And thank you again, Ed, for coming out and bringing this information to us that I think most people don't know is an option that's out there. So we're excited to help get the word out. So again, thank you for joining us at EVgines.com.
Thank you for joining us at EVgines.com. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and share.